There comes a time in life when the world feels quieter, the moments feel heavier, and memories seem to mean more than ever before. Maybe you felt it, that shift when time no longer stretches endlessly ahead, but instead becomes something you long to hold onto. You notice it in the way your body moves, a little slower, a little less steady. In the way others speak to you, softer, more careful, as if they see you as something fragile. And perhaps most of all, you feel it in the silence, the kind that makes you wonder if life is something that's simply happening around you rather than something you are still fully living. At first, the changes are subtle. A little more hesitation before standing up. A little more effort to remember a name. A little less energy than before. But small things become big things. First, you skip an evening walk. Then you avoid the stairs. Then you sit back and watch instead of joining in. And before you know it, the life you once lived feels like it belongs to someone else. But what if it didn't have to be this way? Most people assume that aging is about decline, about losing strength, clarity, and independence. But here's the truth, 99% of deaths after 75 come down to just 5 preventable causes. That means the difference between simply enduring old age and truly living it isn't fate, it's choice. And the best part? It's never too late to take back control. So imagine yourself at 80, not just existing, but thriving. Waking up with energy, moving without hesitation, remembering every moment with clarity. That future is possible. And today we're going to talk about how to make it real. So stay with me because what comes next may change the way you see aging and, more importantly, how you live the years ahead. If you believe life is meant to be fully lived, not just watched from the sidelines, then you're exactly where you need to be. Subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Story now because in just a moment we'll uncover the 5 biggest threats to your health and, more importantly, how to take back control. Your best years aren't behind you. They can still be ahead. And together we'll make sure of it. You've already seen how time has a way of changing things, sometimes so gradually that you hardly notice. A little more fatigue in the morning. A little hesitation before standing up. A little less energy for the things you once did effortlessly. It's easy to believe that these changes are simply part of getting older. But what if they weren't? What if they were signs, subtle warnings from your body whispering that something isn't quite right? Heart disease is the #1 cause of death after 75, yet most people never see it coming. Not because the signs aren't there, but because they're mistaken for something else, something harmless. Feeling tired, sluggish, or easily out of breath. It's easy to dismiss it as aging. Experiencing jaw pain, nausea, or dizziness. You might think it's just something minor, when in reality, these can be silent warnings of an impending heart attack. The scariest part? Many people don't feel anything at all until the damage is already done. Your heart has been working tirelessly since the day you were born, more than 2.5 billion beats by the time you reach 75. It never asks for rest, never takes a break. But that doesn't mean it's invincible. Over time, high blood pressure, poor circulation, and silent inflammation chip away at its strength, often without any obvious symptoms. And then, one day, the heart simply gives out. People say it happened suddenly. But the truth is, it wasn't sudden at all. It was happening for years, unnoticed, unchecked, and unaddressed. But here's the good news, your heart is not just something that wears out with age. It's a muscle, and like any muscle, it can be strengthened, protected, and preserved. The choices you make today don't just affect how you feel now, they determine whether your heart will still be strong 5, 10, even 20 years from now. And the best part? Protecting your heart doesn't require drastic changes. It starts with small, consistent habits, ones that are easy to build into your daily life. The first step is in what you feed your heart. Most people think about heart health in terms of what to avoid: less salt, less sugar, less fat. But your heart doesn't just suffer from what you consume too much of, it suffers from what you fail to give it. Foods rich in healthy fats, fiber, and antioxidants, like olive oil, nuts, leafy greens, and fish, don't just help your heart function better. They keep it stronger for longer. And portion control plays a bigger role than most people realize. In regions where people live the longest, they follow something called the 80% rule. Eating until they are just satisfied, not completely full. This small shift prevents overeating and reduces long-term stress on the heart. Then there's movement. Many people believe that if they can't exercise intensely, it's not worth doing anything at all. But movement isn't about running marathons, it's about keeping your heart engaged, your circulation strong, your body in motion. Studies show that a simple 20-minute walk after meals can lower the risk of heart disease by 31%. Even something as small as standing up every 30 minutes can reduce the risk of heart failure by 25%. Your heart is built to work, but it can't stay strong if it's never challenged. But heart health isn't just about what you eat and how you move. It's also about how you feel. Stress is one of the most overlooked causes of heart disease, slowly raising blood pressure, inflaming arteries, and wearing the heart down. The antidote? Laughter. It may sound simple, but studies show that laughing increases blood flow by 22%, relaxing blood vessels and improving circulation. And beyond laughter, having a strong sense of purpose, a reason to wake up each morning, something that excites or fulfills you, has been linked to a 33% lower risk of heart disease. Because the heart isn't just a physical organ. It responds to the way you live, the way you love, and whether or not you wake up each day with something to look forward to. So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this: your heart's future is not set in stone. Every beat is a chance to do something different, to eat a little better, move a little more, find reasons to laugh, live with intention. The heart never stops working for you, so don't stop working for it. It's easy to believe that the biggest threats to your health come from inside your body, from silent diseases, from conditions you can't see or feel. But sometimes the greatest danger is something far simpler. Something that happens in a single second. A single misstep. A single moment of dizziness. A single fall. No one thinks it will happen to them. One day you're moving through life as usual. The next, you're on the floor, unable to stand, wondering how something so small could change everything. But that's exactly how it happens. One miscalculation. A floor that was just a little too slippery. A moment of imbalance that came out of nowhere. And suddenly, nothing is the same. Falls are not just accidents. They are a turning point, one that, for many people, marks the beginning of a decline they never recover from. 1 in 4 seniors falls every year. Some break a hip, leading to months of immobility, muscle loss, and increased risk of infection. Others suffer head injuries that affect their memory, their ability to think clearly, even their personality. And then there are those who, after one bad fall, simply lose their confidence. They stop walking as much. They avoid stairs. They sit more, move less. And just like that, the world around them shrinks. But the real danger isn't just the fall itself, it's the hidden reasons behind it. Vision changes so gradually that many don't notice when depth perception begins to fade. Blurred vision alone increases the risk of falling by 30%. Then there's dehydration, something as simple as not drinking enough water, which can lead to dizziness, lightheadedness, and sudden loss of balance. And perhaps the most dangerous of all is fear itself. The moment you start avoiding movement, whether it's skipping a walk, hesitating on the stairs, or deciding to sit rather than stand, you begin weakening the very muscles that keep you steady. And when those muscles weaken, the next fall becomes even more likely. But here's what most people don't realize. Falls are not an unavoidable part of aging. Strength, balance, and stability are skills. And like any skill, they can be trained, rebuilt, and maintained. And it starts with something as small as a test. Try standing on one leg for 10 seconds. If it feels shaky, difficult, or impossible, that's not a sign of aging, it's a sign that your balance needs work. And the good news? It can be improved. Practices like Tai Chi and chair yoga have been shown to reduce fall risk by 58%, strengthening both coordination and reaction time. Something as simple as walking barefoot at home can improve foot strength and stability, making it easier to react when your balance is thrown off. But perhaps the most overlooked habit, the one that could one day save your life, is learning how to get up from the floor. Sounds simple, but think about it. If you were to fall right now, would you be able to get up easily? If not, that alone is a warning. Because people who practice getting up from the floor regularly are far less likely to suffer severe complications from falls. They don't panic. They don't struggle. they recover. So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this: your balance, your strength, your ability to move confidently. It's not just something you lose over time. It's something you can build. Falls don't have to define your future. The real danger isn't in moving too much, it's in moving too little. Because the moment you stop challenging your body, it stops being able to catch you when you need it most. So don't wait for a fall to remind you of what's at stake. Move now. Strengthen now. Take control now. Because your independence is not something you want to lose. You don't think about breathing until suddenly you have to. It's the most natural thing in the world, something you've done without effort for decades. But then one day it's not effortless anymore. You wake up feeling a little more winded than usual. You climb a flight of stairs and need to pause halfway. You find yourself catching your breath after simple tasks, like bending down to tie your shoes. At first, it's subtle. A little more difficulty filling your lungs, a little more heaviness in your chest. But then, over time, those small changes grow into something more. You avoid hills when you walk. You stop playing with your grandchildren because it's too tiring. You hesitate before taking a deep breath, because it doesn't feel as easy as it used to. And eventually, even speaking in long sentences feels exhausting. Most people assume that losing breath is just a part of getting older. But that's not true. Respiratory diseases are one of the leading causes of hospitalization after 75, and many of them don't just appear overnight. They build up over years of silent damage. Conditions like COPD, pneumonia, and chronic bronchitis don't just take your breath away, they take your energy, your independence, your ability to live freely. The scariest part? You don't feel your lungs getting weaker until it's too late. Unlike muscles, which ache when they tire, your lungs simply adapt to whatever you give them. If they aren't challenged, they shrink. If they aren't protected, they weaken. And suddenly, one day, something as simple as a common cold turns into a life-threatening event. The danger isn't just illness, it's what we unknowingly do every day. Sitting too long doesn't just weaken your legs, it reduces lung function by 30%. The less you move, the less your lungs expand, the more they stiffen over time. And then there's indoor air pollution, something no one thinks about but everyone is affected by. Dust, mold, pet dander, even cleaning products can inflame the airways, making it harder and harder to breathe. And if you already have asthma or a history of lung problems, these hidden irritants make things even worse. But here's what most people don't realize: your lungs are not doomed to weaken with age. Just like your heart, just like your muscles, they can be strengthened, protected, and even restored. And it starts with something simple. Try this: blow up a balloon. If it feels difficult, if your lungs tire quickly, if you feel lightheaded, it's a sign that they need training. The balloon test isn't just a game, it forces your lungs to expand, keeping them flexible and strong. And here's something even easier: humming. It may sound strange, but research shows that humming naturally boosts nitric oxide levels in the airways, improving lung function and helping clear out mucus. Then there's breathwork, simple, deep belly breathing, something so basic yet so powerful. Most people breathe shallowly, never fully expanding their lungs. But when you take slow, deep breaths, filling them completely, you're not just increasing lung capacity, you're improving oxygen flow to your entire body. And don't forget the air you breathe. Your lungs are only as strong as the environment around them. Houseplants like peace lilies and snake plants don't just look nice. They actually help purify the air, removing toxins that silently wear down your respiratory health. You don't have to wait until breathing becomes a struggle. You don't have to let your lungs dictate how you live. Because breath is life, and the way you care for your lungs today determines how freely you'll live tomorrow. So stand up, take a deep breath, expand your lungs, clear the air around you, and take control. Because every breath you take is a reminder you are still here, and you are still in control. Breathing is something you never think about until it's suddenly taken from you. A simple cough that lingers too long, a breath that feels just a little shallower than before, a growing sense that something isn't quite right. It's easy to dismiss, to assume it's just a sign of aging. But as we've seen, your lungs don't just weaken on their own, they respond to how you treat them. And the same is true for something even more devastating. Just as silent damage can rob your lungs of their strength, it can also cut off blood supply to your brain in an instant. One moment, life is normal, you're speaking, moving, thinking as you always have. And then suddenly, something shifts. A word doesn't come out right. Your arm feels heavy. The world tilts and you can't steady yourself. Maybe you tell yourself you just got up too fast. Maybe you think it's nothing. But in reality, your brain is under attack. A stroke does not wait for you to recognize it. It happens suddenly, without mercy, and without a second chance. Blood flow to the brain is blocked or a vessel bursts, and without oxygen, brain cells begin to die within minutes. Some strokes leave only temporary confusion. Others steal your ability to move, to speak, to be the person you were just moments before. And too often, they are fatal. But here's what most people don't realize: up to 80% of strokes are preventable. The greatest mistake people make is not recognizing the signs in time. Every second lost means more brain function lost. That's why you need to remember: be fast, balance, sudden loss of coordination. Eyes blurred or lost vision. Face, one side drooping when you try to smile. Arms, one arm drifting downward when both are raised. Speech, sudden slurring or confusion. And most importantly, time, because the moment these signs appear, the clock is already ticking. Call 911 immediately. Do not wait. Do not second guess. A stroke is not something you wait and see about. It is a race against time. But here's the part no one talks about. A stroke isn't just something that happens. It's something that builds over time. And one of the biggest culprits? High blood pressure. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't make you feel sick. But over time, it silently damages the arteries, making them weaker, more fragile, until one day, under just the wrong circumstances, they give out. Keeping blood pressure below 120/80 mmHg is one of the most powerful things you can do to prevent a stroke before it ever starts. There's also a simple but surprising warning sign: grip strength. Studies show that a weak hand grip is directly linked to a higher risk of stroke. It may seem unrelated, but a declining grip often signals loss of muscle strength and circulation problems, the very things that put your brain at risk. If your grip feels noticeably weaker over time, take it as a sign that your body is warning you. And then there's the power of something unexpected: music. Science has shown that rhythm-based music therapy can help the brain rewire lost connections after a stroke, aiding in recovery. But wouldn't it be better to prevent a stroke before recovery is ever needed? This is why time matters. It's why action matters. It's why knowing the signs, monitoring your blood pressure, and listening to your body could mean the difference between a normal life and a life forever changed. The golden hour rule: getting medical attention within 60 minutes, can dramatically reduce damage, but only if you act fast. So take control now. Know your numbers. Strengthen your body. Pay attention to the signs. A stroke does not have to be your fate. Because right now, before anything happens, you still have a choice. The moment a stroke begins, time is your enemy. But today, time is on your side. Use it wisely. Some losses happen in an instant. A stroke strikes without warning, changing life in a single moment. But other losses happen slowly, so quietly that you don't even realize they're happening. One day you forget where you left your keys. Then a name escapes you. Then you find yourself struggling to remember what you just walked into the room for. At first, it seems like nothing. Just a little forgetfulness, a little distraction. But then it happens again and again. And before you know it, you're not just forgetting things, you're losing pieces of yourself. Cognitive decline doesn't come with a dramatic moment like a stroke. It creeps in over time, taking small things first: your sharpness, your clarity, before it takes the bigger things: your ability to make decisions, recognize faces, remember the life you've lived. And when that happens, it's not just your memory that disappears. It's your independence. Most people assume that memory loss is just a part of aging, but the truth is, your brain does not have to decline. Yes, we all forget things from time to time, but when those lapses become more frequent, they are not just quirks of aging, they are warnings. The mind is like a fire. It needs to be fueled, challenged, and engaged, or it will begin to dim. The real danger is what we unknowingly do to our brains every day. Loneliness, for example, isn't just a feeling, it's a biological threat. Social isolation increases the risk of Alzheimer's by 60%. Making it just as dangerous to the brain as smoking is to the lungs. Then there's sugar, which scientists now call type 3 diabetes. because of how it fuels inflammation in the brain, damaging neurons over time. And one of the biggest risks, poor sleep. Your brain has a built-in cleaning system that flushes out toxins during deep sleep, but if you're not getting enough, those toxins accumulate, increasing your risk of memory loss and confusion. And perhaps the most overlooked danger of all? Not using your brain. The mind is like a muscle. If you don't challenge it, it weakens. People who stop learning, stop engaging, stop exposing themselves to new experiences don't just lose mental sharpness, they accelerate their own cognitive decline. But here's what most people don't realize: you can strengthen your brain just like you strengthen your body. Just as you train muscles to stay strong, you must train your brain to stay sharp. One of the most effective ways to do this? Daily brain workouts, Sudoku, chess, learning a new skill. Each of these forces your brain to create new neural pathways, keeping it strong and resilient. Then there's the power of sunlight. Just 20 minutes of morning sun boosts serotonin, a chemical that not only improves mood but also protects the brain from decline. And if you want to keep your mind adaptable, try the 5 new things rule, exposing yourself to 5 new activities every week. Try a new recipe. Listen to a different genre of music. Learn a phrase in another language. Take a different route on your daily walk. Every new experience forces your brain to adapt, keeping it active and sharp. And of course, what you eat matters more than most people realize. The Mediterranean diet, rich in olive oil, fish, nuts, and berries, has been ranked as the #1 diet for brain health. The antioxidants in these foods protect brain cells, while healthy fats keep neurons firing efficiently. Your mind is not meant to fade. It is meant to be used, challenged, and strengthened. The choices you make today, from how you move to what you eat to how you engage with the world, shape the clarity of your mind in the years ahead. So don't wait until forgetfulness becomes something more. Learn something new today. Stay engaged. Challenge your mind. Protect it like the treasure that it is. Because the sharper you keep your mind, the longer you stay you. Life is made up of choices, small ones, big ones, the ones we think don't matter, and the ones we don't realize are shaping our future. The way you care for your heart, the way you move your body, the way you breathe, the way you protect your mind, these are not just habits, they are investments. Investments in your strength, your independence, your ability to wake up each day and still feel like yourself. What this journey has shown us is simple: aging is not the enemy, neglect is. It's easy to assume that decline is just a part of growing older, that losing strength, losing clarity, losing control is just something that happens. But we've seen the truth: most of what we fear about aging isn't aging itself, it's the result of years of unintentional choices. And the best part? You still have time to change it. No one wakes up one morning suddenly weak. No one suddenly falls, suddenly forgets, suddenly finds themselves unable to do the things they once loved. It happens slowly, so slowly that most people don't notice until it's too late. But just as decline happens over time, so does strength, so does resilience, so does a life well lived. The small things you do today, the habits you choose to build, are the ones that will determine the life you live years from now. So the real question is this: what kind of future will you create? Will you wake up each morning still feeling capable, still feeling engaged, still moving, still thinking, still living fully? Or will you let the slow erosion of inactivity, isolation, and neglect decide for you? Let today be the moment you choose. Choose to walk. Choose to breathe deeply. Choose to challenge your mind. Choose to take your health into your own hands. Not because you fear aging, but because you want to embrace it strong, aware, and fully alive. And if this message resonated with you, if you found even one insight that could change the way you approach your future, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Story and become part of a community that believes in living not just longer, but better. Because wisdom isn't just about looking back, it's about knowing how to move forward. And it starts now.